Welcome in. Welcome in. It is that time. If you are a college baseball fan, the best rivalry in college baseball is upon us. Clemson, South Carolina said to do battle this weekend. Uh, Weather not looking too great for tomorrow. We'll see if they can get that one in. But we're all going to carry on as if they are playing tomorrow. Um, Billy Barlow starts for Clemson on Friday, Tristan Smith on Saturday, Aiden Canuck on Sunday. Eric Beckett's rolling with the same rotation he's rolled with in the first two weekends of the season. And why not? I mean, the pitching hasn't been terrible or anything outside of the 18-1 loss to Kennesaw State on Friday night. I didn't think Barlow was terrible in his first start. I think Smith's been pretty good, particularly his second start. Knott was lights out in his second start, and we'll see if that can carry over. This weekend, when the lights are brighter, the stage is bigger, probably the biggest they will play on this season until postseason play, probably, man. I mean, it just does not. There's no bigger series in college baseball than Clemson, South Carolina. It just there just isn't. Um, it's kind of different than the football rivalry. Obviously, baseball is a more niche fan base and those kind of things, but I think there's more heat in this rivalry than obviously in the basketball rivalry. The basketball gets really no play at all. It's kind of football and baseball, and this there's not a better one in the country, man. Period. It will be this will be the biggest stage both these teams have played on this season. South Carolina took 2 out of 3 from Clemson last year, and unfortunately, Clemson's got to play 2 games in Columbia. Can stop with this garbage of a neutral site game at Segra Park, man. That's not a neutral site game. I don't care if you play it at Segra Park. It's not a neutral site game. That game's in Columbia, right in South Carolina's backyard. I know for years a lot of people cried about that third game getting played in Greenville because it was, closer to Clemson. But man, it's kind of about as in the middle as you can get, when it comes to places you can play that game between Clemson and South Carolina. And all the times that I went to games or have been to games there at Floor Field, it's been a pretty even crowd. It's not like it's always heavy on the Clemson side. I always thought that was the perfect place to play that game. And if you're not going to play it there every year, I'm in favor of moving it around. Let's play it in Myrtle Beach one day. Let's play it in Charleston one day. It's not that much more travel. Play it in Greenville one day, and if you got to play at the Segra one year, play it at Segra one year. And I'm not a big fan of that at all. But if you got to, you got to. I'm not a big fan of playing it there every other year, though. Hopefully they work something else out because that's not a neutral site game. It's just not. Anyways, that is not the tangent I was planning to go on as we opened up, but Eric Beckett's second taste of the rivalry as a head coach. Obviously, he was at Clemson one season, way back early in Jack Leggett's tenure. So he's had a little taste of it now, and he talked a lot about the rivalry Tuesday night after their midweek win. I like the way Eric Beckett talks about the rivalry. Man, you can tell that he has a lot of respect for it, and is treated that way inside that building over there. I always like coaches who kind of respect those kind of rivalries, and Eric Beckett certainly does that. Says they talk about it in their first team meeting of the year. And the thing I like the most is when he says, the way we can respect it the most is to go out and play well. I mean, that's all you want. No matter what happens, you don't want to see something like you saw Friday night in that game against Kennesaw State. If you're going to lose, you at least want to be at your best when you lose, right? So we'll see how it shakes out over the weekend. Unfortunately, I will not be there. I can't remember the last time I did not make it at least one of these games. But duty calls, other things come up. We'll still have you covered best we can. Zach will be there Sunday at least. I'm not sure about Saturday, but I think he's going to go over and cover football Friday. So kind of to be determined on how he covers it over the weekend. Probably weather's going to factor in. I know it's factoring into where he's going tomorrow. So be interesting to see what happens if tomorrow does get rained out and where that game, where that game gets slotted in. Remember we had a rain out a couple of years ago and ended up having to play a midweek game. Those two teams played a midweek game there in Clemson. This time tomorrow is at Founders. So if it gets rained out this time, obviously it'd be at Founders. But none of those venues want to lose that game. Not South Carolina staff, not Clemson staff, and not the people of Segre. So I imagine every effort will be made to try and get them in. But again, Billy Barlow on the mound tomorrow. Of Clemson's 3 starting weekend pitchers, he's probably the one that's he's not looked quite as sharp as the other 2. Let's put it that way. Gave up a couple of hits in his debut in the first inning against Xavier. Led to a couple of unearned runs. The very first ball that was put in play was misplayed by the third baseman. Leads to then he gives up a couple hits and a couple unearned runs come across. Then he settles down, and I don't think he gives up any more hits after that. If I'm remembering that right. And then obviously Friday, man, it was just bad, and it wasn't just him. So I don't want to single him out from Friday because he's not doing. Nick Clayton was not very good. Nick Clayton came in again, on Sunday, or was it Tuesday, and hit a couple more guys. So he's been struggling with his command last couple times out. This is a team you do not want to leave the ball up in the zone against, and that's something Barlow was doing last Friday because they will knock it out of the park. I haven't watched a lot of South Carolina games this year, but that lineup's got some pop in it. You know that. Dylan Brewer, familiar name for Clemson fans, man. He's got off to a really good start for the Gamecocks there. He's in the lineup every day playing center field. So that's one familiar face. Jonathan French no longer with South Carolina, but it looks like the change of scenery has really, really worked out well for Brewer, especially this year. I think we're watching our Twitter. Yeah, I'm not following what you're saying. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Yeah, Barlow is definitely, let's call it, he's on the struggle bus a little bit after Friday. Absolutely. Again, I didn't think he was bad in his first start. He had the bumpy first inning, the error, and then he gave up a couple. I can't remember. I think he gave up 3 hits in his 5 innings. And I think a couple of them came in the first inning after that error. I know the 2 runs that he allowed, if I'm remembering that right. Well, let me see. I think I got it pulled up right here. I think the 2 runs he gave up were both in the first inning and both unearned. I think that was the only 2 he gave up. But I didn't think he was bad against. I've seen some comments that he got hammered in the first inning, and I don't know that I agree with that. You're not going to no hit everybody, man. You're going to give up some hits, and it's hard to fault a pitcher when he's giving up nothing but unearned runs. Tickled, you were one of the ones that wanted to bench Will Taylor. I got you. How's that working out? Yeah, how's that working out, man? Like I said Monday, man, guys like that, you got to let them hit their way out of slumps, man. He was 1 for 23 coming into Tuesday night's game. His first hit had come in his very first at-bat of the season, and so he goes 0 for 22 after that. But he was hitting the ball. He was hitting the ball well, man. I mean, it's not like he was up there swinging and missing and striking out a bunch. He was putting good contact on the ball. Came close to hitting a couple balls out of the park Sunday. The balls weren't falling for him, and at some point they're going to start falling, or he's going to start hitting them over the wall. One thing I said before the season is I thought Taylor's power numbers would increase a little bit this year due to the fact that he had all of fall and all of spring, and he wasn't going back and forth between football and baseball. And 3 home runs in one game. We'll see how we'll see what the numbers look like when we get towards the end of the season. But I do think you'll see an uptick in his power numbers, and that's a guy I would not worry about ever. If it was me, I wouldn't even have moved him down in the lineup. Me and Zach had this conversation in the press box Friday night. He was like, "See what happens when when you move him down." And I think that's totally coincidental. I think he was bouncing out. I think he's going to come charging out of that slump, whether he stayed at the 2-hole or moved him down to the 6-hole. Although I don't have a big time problem with him in the 6-hole. I kind of like the lineup the way it was written out Tuesday night. I mean, I like it both ways. You can't really go wrong with him at 2 or 6. But I couldn't remember. I knew there were some people out there saying that they needed to sit Will for a game or so. I couldn't remember who all was saying it. At least kudos, man. Kudos. Not everybody will stand up and say I was the one that said that. Major props. Don't think he will be back in time, but having Jacob Gerald back would be huge. Overtop is good with the bat, very slow behind the plate. Yeah, I do not expect Gerald back this weekend. And that it kind of is what it is. When he does get back, though, yeah, I think he is. I think he's the better guy defensively, without question. Unfortunately, injuries happen. I don't know a timetable for his return, but I would be shocked if it was this quick. I was actually a little surprised when Bakich said a couple of weeks the other day, whenever that was. I think it was over the weekend I think it was Friday night. Yeah, Friday night when he said a couple of weeks, because I was thinking maybe even longer than that. But if he's back in a couple of weeks, man, that's great. That would be great. That would be next Friday if it's really 2 weeks. So, but yeah, he's not going to be back in for this weekend. The question is, can you get Cam back in center field this weekend? Would not shock me to see him back out there in the field, and that opens up another spot in the lineup. Somebody else can slide in and DH. That's the downside to Cam having to be a DH. It takes the bat out of somebody else's hands, because he's got to, he's taking a spot from somebody else when you got to use him at DH. Put him back out there in center, then you can get another bat in that lineup. And I think there's a pretty good possibility we'll see him back out there this weekend. We'll see. I mean, nobody's told me that. I've not heard that. That's just gut feeling. I think a lot of him not playing center last weekend was more precaution than anything. Afraid South Carolina might run at will if Gerald is not ready. Yeah, I don't expect Gerald to be back. He had some, some facial fractures or something. That'd be a very quick healing if he's back this weekend. But I have not seen a lot of Overtop's arm yet, so we'll see. I haven't seen him in action a whole bunch back there yet, actually attempting to gun guys down. But one thing that I have been surprised by is Clemson's lack of aggressiveness on the base pass, man. They came out of the gate last year, man, just swiping bases, just killing it. I mean, they were every time they got on base, man, it felt like they were trying to steal, and we've just not seen that this year at all. I think Alden Mathis is about the only guy that's really running when he gets on base, and that was something that I was absolutely not expecting. Mathis has got a couple of attempts. Not Mathis, excuse me, Andrew Chufo. Chufo, he's got 4 attempts. Clemson's got 8 attempts as a team all season. That number is way down from where I expected it to be with the guys in this lineup that have, really good speed, especially in a game like, I think it was Sunday's game where they had all those singles, man, and they didn't have many extra base hits. Games like that's where I really expected them to be aggressive on the base pass, and they just haven't done it. Canarella's got 1 attempt. Mathis has 2. Rocky has 1, and Mathis, did it again. Chufo has the other 4. Maybe that's something they've kind of been holding on to and felt like they haven't needed to do yet. Maybe we'll see more of that this weekend, because you got guys in that lineup that can move, that can motor, that are very capable of stealing bases and on the best of the catchers. I know Beckett's talked a little bit, I think on more than one occasion, if I'm remembering right, that about how good Xavier's catcher was and how strong his arm was, and that played a little bit into why they did not try to swipe a lot of bases in that opening series, but they didn't against Kennesaw State, at least not at the level that I was expecting. Tyler says South Carolina doesn't have a lot of speed, so I take it from somebody that's watched them play this year, because I can't really comment on that. When I'm at Doug Kingsmore every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then there again on Tuesday, it's hard for me to watch South Carolina's game, so I haven't seen them any this year outside of a couple innings one day, and so I'm gonna take your comment here and piggyback on what I just said. Talked about with Overtop, Kaysen was worried about South Carolina running on Overtop. So if you don't have a lot of speed and those guys don't steal a lot of bases, then maybe it's not a worry, but we'll see. Yes, I came home yesterday. I feel like I have not been home in 2 weeks, and I got to looking at the calendar, and I really haven't been. I think last night was the 4th time I've slept in my bed in the last 2 weeks, and then I'm fixing to hit the road again tomorrow. I got a family thing. I got to go out of town for the weekend, so I'll be home a few days next week, and then right back at it. I wouldn't trade it though, man. Let's see why we are on that, and I should have had this pulled up before I jumped on here, but I was running a little late. Does anybody know how many bases South Carolina has stolen this year so far? Let's see. 6. South Carolina is 6 for 6 stolen bases this year. Will Tippett has 2. Blake Jackson has 2. And the former Clemson Tiger himself, Dylan Brewer, has 2. Let's see, I got some other things pulled up right here on them. Obviously, as most people know, Clemson leads the overall series 186, 145. There's been 2 ties. South Carolina has the advantage when playing at South Carolina, 86-70. That's where the two ties were too. Tied in neutral site games, 13-13, and Clemson has an overwhelming advantage at home when they're at home, 103-46. Neither team has played a game away from home this year. South Carolina's averaging 9.3 runs per game. Clemson's averaging 8.6. South Carolina's hitting 285 as a team. Clemson's hitting 330 as a team. Clemson's pitching staff has a 4.62 ERA. South Carolina's has a 2.40. That's pretty impressive. And Dylan Brewer is hitting 519. I knew he was having a good start to the season, even better than I remembered. He's hitting 519 so far. Petrie, who is a big-time part of that lineup, is hitting 357 with 3 home runs, and they have a 968 fielding percentage. Clemson's slugging 570. They have a 441 home base percentage, and again, just 6 steals. Teams are hitting 236 off Clemson's pitching, and those pitchers have a 2.20 strikeout to walk ratio. Clemson's fielding percentage is 950. Obviously, they had the 6 errors in one game Saturday, which was just ugly, man. It was ugly. Yeah, South Carolina does have some pop in that lineup, absolutely. So, it stands to reason they'd be a little more station to station, no doubt about it. Kind of like Monty was with his teams at Clemson. They played a lot more station to station ball. Very rarely did they bunt. They kind of sat back and waited on the long ball. Austin Gordon's role this weekend. I don't know, man. Gordon threw 60 pitches Tuesday night. I do not see I don't see him pitching tomorrow. I don't see him pitching Saturday. Even if he comes back Sunday, that's still 4 days rest. I don't know. He threw more pitches than I thought they were going to let him throw Tuesday night. Because I remember Eric Backus saying Sunday after the series finale against Kennesaw State that Gordon might not pitch as long as he did in his first start, which was 2 innings and 30 pitches, but he threw twice the amount of pitches. So I know he said all hands on deck, everyone's available. I just don't know, man. If you see him, it's not going to be before Sunday. Ethan Darden, on the other hand, he only threw 30 pitches Tuesdays, and he doesn't throw the ball as hard as Gordon. He doesn't labor as much when he's throwing. I could see him being available Saturday, maybe. I doubt he'd be available tomorrow. Possible. He only threw 30 pitches, but he's that guy might be as good as any pitcher Clemson had so far. That guy might be the best Clemson's rolled out there this year so far. He has been very efficient. He's throwing strikes. He's not walking guys, and nobody's hitting him, man. When he's on with his command, when he's putting the ball where he wants it, he is really good. And I talked about this on the radio a little bit this morning. He kind of gets overlooked on that road. When it comes to that pitching staff, sometimes I don't know why. Maybe because he doesn't throw as hard as some of the other guys. When he's on, like he's been on in his first 2 appearances this year, he's really good. And if he gets pitching at that level, maybe he's starting. Maybe he's a guy that's starting before long. Yes, yeah. Darden started a lot of games last year. He actually became the Friday starter over a period of several weeks. No, was it Friday? I think he did start on Fridays. I can't remember if it might not have been Friday, but my memory's not what it used to be. But yeah, he was in the weekend rotation for a pretty good period of time there after Ryan Ammons got hurt. And he was a freshman and he had an up and down season, which is to be expected when we're talking about freshman pitchers. Man, he has been really good, and he was really good in those 3 innings against Upstate Tuesday night, and he was really good in his first appearance, which came in midweek action in the first midweek game of the season. He came in after Gordon pitched the first 2 innings. He's been really good in both of his appearances. Matter of fact, I got his numbers right here. He's actually pitched in 3 games, 5 in the third innings pitched, 2 hits, just 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. He's faced 18 batters. He struck out 6 of them, allowed just 2 hits. Man, I don't remember when he pitched the third time, but like I said, my memory is getting old. Reed Garris was I saw him this weekend throwing pregame, and he was throwing. He was throwing like he was putting something on it. Not in the bullpen or anything. He was in the outfield, just basically playing catch, but he was throwing it hard. And I don't want to call it long toss because he was putting some mustard on it. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's been wrong with him. We've not seen him pitch yet. Backets was asked about him the other night. And he just said he was kind of in the same boat with Gordon, and they were just working on getting him amped up. But from my understanding, he got a little banged up in the preseason, and they were hoping to have him back by this weekend. But if not this weekend, definitely next. A lot of experience. How short a leash Backets have with the starters if they all struggle early? I don't know. That'll probably be on a case by case basis, and it just depends on the type of struggle mainly. This is a series. I don't think you're going to see throwing in the white towel early on Friday night because one guy or 2 guys are getting rocked or anything like that. I mean, this series, these guys want to win, and I don't know how to answer that one because you have to take it from a case by case basis. And that word struggle is kind of subjective. But you got a pretty deep bullpen out there, and all those guys are fresh. I mean, I don't see anybody staying out there who's getting hammered, especially if they're not throwing strikes. That's one thing that Jimmy Bellinger is not going to stand for. If you're not throwing strikes, you're not going to stay out there long, man. That's something he hammers on. That is one of his biggest things. You got to throw strikes. Cam did the same thing to his shoulder he did in that Louisville series last year. Yes, Casey Talent is out for the year. He had to have surgery. Matt Marshall. I think Marshall's going to be a big part of that bullpen as we move on through the season. He's a guy that was known to be a strike throwing machine, before he gets to Clemson. Yet here, early in the season, we've seen him twice. He's pitched 5 in the third innings and he's walked 5 guys. He's got 9 strikeouts, but he's walked 5 guys in 5 in the third innings, and that is not the Matthew Marshall that anybody was expecting. He got, if I'm remembering right, he pitched in that game Friday and got hit up pretty good. He got hit pretty good at one of those games over the weekend and gave up a few walks, but he does have 9 strikeouts in those 5 in the third innings too. way too early to start worrying about that guy yet, though. He's only given up, despite the 5 walks, he's only given up 2 earned runs. He'll get there. This is a question I have. If when it gets toward, the 8th inning, the 9th inning, and it's a 1-run game, 2-run game, 3-run game, who's Eric Back is turning to out there in that bullpen? I think Malstead is definitely a possibility. I'm leaning towards thinking we're going to probably see, at least to a degree, man, maybe a closer by committee type of approach, at least for now, until maybe one guy kind of solidifies himself in that role. But yeah, I could absolutely see it being Malstead. The submarine guy, man, he's got nasty stuff. His stuff is just nasty. We've seen him twice already. He's thrown 5 innings, and he does. He's a guy. He's like Matt Marshall. He's not known to walk a lot of guys. He's allowed 1 earned run in those 5 innings. Has allowed 4 hits. He's going to be more. He's going to get hit, give up more ground balls. He's not going to be like this big strikeout guy, but I can see it. I can see him playing a pivotal role in high leverage situations. Let's call them that. High leverage situations. And he's a guy that can go on back-to-back days. Backich even said he could go on back-to-back days. I might have to see that to believe it, but he's definitely a guy I can see going back-to-back. Marshall's a guy that I, was a candidate to me to be in the rotation. Wouldn't have shocked me at all to see it play out that way, and maybe he still moves in there at some point. I don't think the rotation is set in stone just yet. If the 3 guys if Barlow and Smith and Knock, pitch to the level that I think they're capable of pitching to, then maybe it settles in that way. But if they don't, I could see some changes being made at some point. But again, I think Tristan Smith's pitched pretty well in his first 2 starts. I thought he was really good last weekend. You take those errors out of that game, man, his numbers look way different. And they still weren't terrible, with the errors. Right now, his ERA is 3.12. He's thrown 8 2/3 innings. He's given up 3 earned runs, 11 strikeouts. At one point, his whip was under 1. It's not anymore, but can these New York guys, Michigan guys realize how important it is? I don't know about the New York guys, but I don't see why the Michigan guys wouldn't. I mean, they grew up in Michigan, Ohio State. I kind of view it as something very similar. That's not something I'd worry about too much. Even if you got a guy that doesn't really have a good feel and doesn't have his finger on the pulse of how heated this rivalry is and how much it really means to the people in this state, they still want to go out there and win. These stats I'm looking at say Tristan's allowed 5 runs, 3 of them earned. He's walked 4, struck out 11. Opponents are hitting 212 off of him. He's got 1 wild pitch, 1 hit by pitch, and 8 2/3 innings. He's allowed 7 hits. Clayton being middle relief, thought him and Robert said as closers. Don't let Submarine do. No, I did not think Clayton was going to be a closer. I thought he'd be that guy who would get you to the closer, kind of. Let's call him the setup guy. That's kind of the role. I thought he'd be in a similar role as he was last year, and that's where he was so good, man. He'd come in the sixth, seventh, eighth, and get you to your closer, and that's kind of how I envisioned him, or how I envisioned his role this year. Especially when you got guys like Rob Hughes and Reed Garris, and heck, even Matt Marshall and Lucas Malstead out there. Yeah, but you don't want him you don't want Malstead trying to pick somebody off, man. It was not, man, that was just, that was ugly. It was ugly. Tyler says Rob Hughes was throwing 89 last weekend. Yeah, I'm gonna take your word for that one too. I didn't notice. But he's only pitched the one time, which is, a little eye-opening. Everybody else out there in that bullpen that's gonna be, actually no, he's pitched twice. I take that back. He's thrown 3 innings. Man, my memory's getting old. I only remember the one, but 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 strikeout, no walks. I didn't notice he was only throwing 89 though. Gerald out long term, settle on first baseman. I think they kind of have. I mean, it's kind of been Hinderlotter, right? I don't think we've seen a lot of much mix. I don't think we've seen a whole lot of mixing and matching over there the last few games. You might see some different guys out there in the midweek, but Hinderlotter's kind of been the guy there on the weekend the last few games since Gerald's gotten hurt. No, Zach tonight. He, like me this weekend, Zach had a family thing tonight, so we decided to kind of just do this. I just decided to do this tonight. We were going to do like this big baseball preview show. We were going to do it last night, but I couldn't do it last night because I was driving home, and then we talked about doing it tonight, and then he couldn't do it tonight because he had something going on. So I said, you know what? I'll just do my thing like I usually do on Mondays. I'll do it on Thursday, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, if you get Cam back in center field, I could see Hinderlotter being back in third and Rocky being back at DH. But to me, somehow I think Milwaukee's a guy you got to have in the lineup. He's hitting the ball pretty well here to start the season, but so is Jack Crichton. So you got to find a way to get him. Or you slide him there. I prefer seeing him out in right field as opposed to first base. I think Hinderlotter's done a pretty good job there at first base. I actually think he gives you a little athleticism over there. So until Cam gets back, I think you're fine with him at first. And I don't see Cam being out long term. I think he's going to be back in center sooner rather than later. I don't think Jake's going to be out long term either. I mean, he's going to be out a little bit longer, but I don't think it's going to be like half the season or anything like that. No, I will. No, I'm going to a funeral, man. I will not. Phone won't be on. Prefer to keep Hinderlotter at first and Wright at third. Yeah, Wright's not going to back to third. That's not happening. Not doesn't appear to be, anyways. I mean, I like right at second. That's where he started out. That's kind of he's kind of naturally a middle infielder, and I don't have a big time problem with him over there. Even when Hinderleiter's a shortstop, heck, he can or naturally a shortstop. He's certainly capable of playing third if you need him over there. And I know now Rocky's already made a couple errors, but he's also made a couple really good plays too. He's been mostly solid over there, and he's still a young guy. I like moving right over to second, and letting Hinderleiter play third, or Rocky play third, or heck, platooning them if you have to, or choose to go that route. Friday night first pitch is scheduled for 7 o'clock. The later we've gotten into the day, the forecast looks a little bit more favorable. We'll see if they can get it in. We'll see how much rain falls between now and then. Saturday's game, first pitch set for 2 o'clock there at Segra Park, and Sunday, 2 o'clock at Doug Kingsmore. All three games will be streamed on the ESPN app. SEC Network Plus on Friday. Get ACC Network Extra on Saturday and Sunday. And no, I don't think you're going to have any games, or I don't think you're going to have to worry about the game Sunday being the one camera view. There's no basketball game overlapping. So you don't have to worry about that. I don't know what the feed there at Segra will be like. That's a minor league ballpark, so I don't know how that production will be. I can't remember what it was like from last year because I'm usually at the games and not watching them. So we'll see how that telecast plays out, and you'll get the decent production from Columbia at Founders tomorrow night. Yeah, I'm not putting right at third to put Purify at second right now. I'm just not doing it, not right now. If you no, I'm not even gonna say that. If you watched as much in the preseason as I did, you'd understand why I say that. Yeah, Mathis played some first base in the preseason. It seemed like I remember him playing a lot of first base in the preseason. I was kind of actually expecting him to be there opening day and again, my memory's getting a little ragged, and I might have been remembering it wrong. I was a little surprised he was not at first base when the very first lineup came out, because every time I was there in the preseason, it seemed like that's where he was at. But now he's been really good out there in center while they've been waiting on Cam. No, from my understanding, it's not due to the number of cameras. No, it's something deeper than that, and I don't know. I asked about it. Construction was not even mentioned. Now maybe that's a reason for whatever's going on, but has something to do with basketball overlapping with at the same time, and the number I don't know number I can't even remember. I didn't even really understand it. It got real technical, but I was told it was not due to a shortage of cameras or a shortage of staff to run cameras. No, I was told it was not this. It was not due to it was not they didn't have enough people to run them. Because if you go back to Sunday, all they had was a women's basketball game and a baseball game going on at the same time. Softball was already over. Because I actually asked about this the other day. And the way I asked it was, do they not have enough cameras or not have enough staff? And he was like, no, it's not either. And the guy tried to explain it to me the best he could. And it has something to do with feeds and the production truck. And it went way over my pay grade. I'm not even sure he really understood it. Yeah, I don't know if it's disconnected why would it be disconnected one day and then not the next? I don't know about that. Again, I don't know why if it's got to do with construction, why you could do it one day and then not the next. I just think it runs deeper than that. Maybe it's so in some way construction does play a factor in it because I don't know of any construction going on at Doug Kingsmore. I know there's some going on there at Jervy. They are expanding it up and out. That parking lot in front of Jervy will no longer exist, or the one right directly in front of it. But again, the guy I was talking to tried to explain it to me, and I don't think he got so technical. I don't think he really understood it either. But all I can tell you is it's not the number of cameras, it's not the number of staff, and construction wasn't used. And I don't know about this. Everything is disconnected in the press box. I'm in the press box every week. Everything up there seems to be working fine. And if it was because everything was disconnected in the press box, then I don't know why it would be disconnected one day and not the next. I don't know. It's got to run something deeper than that, something to do in the production truck, something. But I don't know why you would have that view Sunday. I mean, you should have your normal view, normal camera angles and everything. So yeah, I would expect it not to be a problem on Sunday. It's only what is it? I think it's only been 3 games that's happened on this year, and I think all 3 games they had stuff overlapping or basketball overlapping, if I remember right. One of them was a women's basketball game, but because the way it was told to me, it was like a basketball game takes so many feeds in the truck. I don't know, something, man. I can't even try to explain it. I would not expect it to, I wouldn't expect any solution other than making sure, looking on the schedule and see what days basketball and baseball overlap, which there's only one more home men's basketball game. So I don't think it'll be a problem many more times. First pitch Friday, tomorrow, Founders Park. Wish I could go and see some of you guys out there, but I'll have to catch you at Doug Kingsmore next weekend. 4:00. Billy Barlow for Clemson, Eli Jones for South Carolina. Best baseball rivalry in the country fixing to go down this weekend. If any of you have not done so, we would very much appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Clemson comes out loses 2 out of 3 last year, looking to get back on the winning side this year. And something else we've not mentioned tonight, looking for the sweep in the Big 3. You've already got a win over South Carolina in football. You've got one over them in basketball. And man, with each passing week, that win over them in basketball looks better and better and better. That is a very good basketball team they've got there. Heck, I don't know how you can go with anybody else but Lamont Paris as coach of the year. So you take 2 out of 3 this weekend, or if you go out and sweep them, man, then you sweep the Big 3. Something that's always a feather in your cap for all of you guys who like to do the trash talking on Twitter and getting to the Twitter spats with the rival fans. So that's another thing, another storyline this weekend. Clemson looking for the sweep in the Big Three. Do you think there may be an Amick on the team that can break out during the season? If you mean like from a power standpoint, nah. I don't think this lineup's going to have guys hitting. I don't know that it's going to have somebody that hits home runs at that kind of clip the way, say, a Caden Grice did last year or a Billy Amick did this year. My breakout player for this year, I called it before the season, was Nolan Naraki. You know, he was very good in the preseason, man. He was hitting the ball really well, but he's not going to hit it with a lot of power. So if you're talking about just from a power standpoint, no. I do think this team's going to hit enough home runs. They're hitting plenty of home runs. They're just not all coming from the same one or two guys. You know, I think Taylor hitting his 3 Tuesday. He leads the league. He leads the team with those 3. Cam's got 2, I think, and everybody else has got just 1. If there's one guy who's a candidate to hit them at that clip, it's Overtop, the transfer from Michigan. I don't know if he'll hit quite that many. He's definitely not gonna make up for the. He's definitely not gonna make up for what you got from Grice and Amick combined. But yeah, he's a power guy. And teams have pitched around him a good bit already this year, man. He's walked a bunch. He's already walked a bunch this year. Excuse me, sorry about that. But if there's one guy in here, yeah, Tickle Tiger says the Overtop already leads the ACC in walks. Let's see, he's walked. I remember he walked like 5 times or 7 times the first weekend of the season. He is. He's already walked 11 times already in 8 games. So teams are already trying to pitch around him a little bit. But he's a guy that's got pop. Probably the most pop in the lineup. I do think you're going to see Will Taylor's home run numbers go up. I don't know if they're going to be on a level that Amick was last year. That was kind of, that doesn't happen very often where a guy's kind of the third first baseman on the bench and he just kind of comes out of nowhere to have that kind of season, man. That just doesn't happen all the time. But I do think while this team will not have the same amount of pop as last year, I think it'll have enough. And as Steven says here, don't discount Mathis either, man. He's got some pop too, but I just don't think he's got the same kind of pop as a Grice or an Amick. He's going to hit you some home runs too. This is my last time listening to you. I got found guilty in my murder case. I may be facing what? Dude. Yeah, I don't even know how to respond to that. That's what I paused for a minute ago. I was reading that and I was like, what the hell? Hey man, I'm sorry to hear. I got nothing for that. Man, apologies. I hope I wasn't bad luck for you, man. I could see Clemson hitting more home runs as a team than they did last year. I went a long-winded way. That was my long-winded way of trying to say that. I don't, you're not going to have those big boppers in the middle like Grice, but I think as a collective, this lineup's got plenty of pop. Yeah, I don't know what Amick's done at Tennessee. He wanted. I know he's hit a couple of home runs at least. I'd like to know how he's doing in the field. That would be my biggest question. We know what he can do at the plate. We don't know what he can do out. We've not seen what he's capable of doing on the field there at third base. Who do I have winning the series? A lot of unknowns still for both these teams. I hate the fact that two of these games are being played in Columbia. I feel like that gives South Carolina a major leg up here. And maybe it turns out that it doesn't matter, but I don't know. That's just the way I feel. That just, to me, there's nothing right about playing a neutral site game in Columbia. And I don't say that just because I grew up rooting for Clemson or I grew up or that I now cover Clemson, man. I'd say that if I was on the other side of it. I try to look at things logically, and to me, that makes no logical sense how you play a neutral site game in Columbia, right down the street from one of the schools. Still, though, man, give me. I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth on this one. I haven't watched South Carolina outside a couple innings earlier this year. I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna say Clemson takes 2 out of 3, man. I don't know what's gonna happen at Founders tomorrow, but I think Clemson wins Saturday, and I think Connacht gets. I think Connacht. I think we see the same thing from Connacht this weekend we saw last weekend. So give me Clemson taking 2 out of 3. I might be way off on that, man, but I'm gonna go on with my gut. Go on with my gut. Don't forget, if you not hit that like button, please do so. We would absolutely appreciate it. Hit that like button. Hit that bell. Tell you every time we going live. Be right back here Monday night. Recap the series. Get into some more spring football. Was at practice yesterday. Put some of my thoughts and observations from what we've seen is up on the website right now, allclemsontigers.com. If you're interested in that, check it out. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it back out to practice Monday or not. It depends on what happens with my family thing this weekend. And that will be our last shot at watching practice this spring. But we'll have a lot, even if I don't, we'll have a lot more information to go on Monday, because we get a viewing session Friday, even though I won't be there. Zach will be there. He'll be there Monday if I'm not there. So a lot more to talk about Monday when it comes to football. And then probably Wednesday or Thursday, we'll do Paul Talk again, me and Zach. But, on Mondays, we'll be here every week, 7 o'clock. Appreciate all y'all's good thoughts. Appreciate everybody that tuned in. Don't forget, first pitch tomorrow at 4. Billy Barrow, Eli Jones going at it on the mound. See y'all Monday.